Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dana Harris, and I'm going to talk to you today about investing more to train for Common Core. So, this is going to be a presentation about the process of implementing the Common Core state standards and what took place in order to implement those standards. All right, so we're going to talk about several different things. First thing I'm going to talk about is the origins of the Common Core State Standards for Mathematics. That's what CCSSM stands for. Who decided on the standards, the implementation of the standards, the stakeholders, the resistance that the implementation process faced, budget, the bigger question. Then I'm going to talk about final thoughts, and then I'm going to share some resources with you. So, getting started, I want to talk about the origins of the Common Core State Standards. And the Common Core State Standards was led by a group of state officials in 2009, and it included all 48 states, including the District of Columbia. And so there were a lot of major figures on the state level and the national level that wanted to come together and have something that could be a uniform uh, uh, set of standards that the kids would learn across our nation. And so they came up with this process, and they wanted to make these kids college and career ready. And so they put together a group of people to produce these standards. Now, the people that decided on these standards were actually, they wanted to talk about math and ELA, which is English Language Arts. I'm sorry, English Language Arts. And those are the main subjects that these standards were produced on. Also, the National Education Association, the Federal American Federation of Teachers, the National Council of Teachers in Mathematics, and the National Council of Teachers in English were also some major organizations that had a part to do with this process. Also, the states selected teachers to be part of the team that would give feedback as these standards were being drafted, and the states gave their input well, the teachers gave their input on behalf of the states during the process as well. So we know that when the standards were implemented, um, the states were voluntarily accepting to adopt these standards. So it wasn't something that was mandated nationally. They voluntarily adopted these standards, and in some cases it was the state school board. Sometimes it was, in some cases, it was state legislation or the state superintendent. But at the time, only a few states opted out of the Common Core state standards. And two of the major states that I recall were Texas and Virginia. From the beginning, those two states did not decide to join and adopt the Common Core state standards. Today, as you can see, 42 states, including the District of Columbia, and 4 territories, as well as the DOD schools, Department of Defense Education Activity. Those are the military-based schools, and those schools are on the military bases here stateside as well as some of the military bases overseas. And so these are several of the people that today currently are using the Common Core state standards. And you can check one of the resources at the end of this program, or at the end of this presentation, to see what your state actually, what position they're taking on the Common Core state standards. The stakeholders in this case are the students, the teachers, the parents, and as well as the state and local government. These are the most important stakeholders, and as you can see here in the presentation, this is why I feel they are the most important stakeholders. Students, because they're the number one stakeholder in the education system. Teachers have been forced to teach these standards. The parents, they have to help their students complete their work, and a lot of them are confused on how to help them. And then state and local government, because they were the ones that adopted these standards. So, of course, there was a lot of resistance when the standards were implemented, but when this resistance came, one of the things that we have to realize is that there were major instances. For example, they were wondering how we're going to assess the students. There the state exams that students take at the end of their courses is a major part of this, and so a lot of people were unclear on the standards, what they meant, and how they were going to be tested. So here are three major articles that talk about the resistance to those standards. Also, we want to talk about the budget. And so here, as you can see, these different facts, it talks about how much money was actually spent to implement the Common Core state standards across the United States throughout this implementation process. One of the things that stuck out to me is it says that in average, teachers were sent to professional development sessions an average of 19 days per school year, but only 30% of those teachers were showing improvement according to their um, evaluation ratings and their classroom observations. And so that is a quite interesting fact to me. And so that sticks out to me. The other thing is I want to think about the big question. One of the major things that I pose myself is how much money was invested for the teachers to get training and get some clarity on these standards. I was not able to come across that information specifically, but I'm pretty sure that information is out there. I would like to know, how were the teachers trained to say, hey, this is what this particular standard means, this is how you teach this standard, and this is how you can be effective with this standard? Very good question. And the last thing that I think about is I want to talk about, I think the process of implementing the Common Core state standards was very, very good idea. However, in my opinion, if they had implemented them progressively, for example, starting with kindergarten, then the following year K1, then K2, K3, if they implemented these standards progressively, then it would give the teachers time to prepare and become experts, and it would also help the students because with you putting all the standards out there at one time, then there are kids that may be in sixth grade and they're being forced to know information about the Common Core when they had not had Common Core the previous year. So that's my thoughts. If you look at these resources here, two of the main pages that you will see out there in reference to Common Core are corestandards.org, achievethecore.org. These other websites are just resources from where I pulled information. It's also resources where you can dig and find further information if you'd like to in reference to these Common Core state standards and the implementation process of them.